The forbidden food of the kings, why these 5 ingredients were illegal. Welcome to AmdiVibes, where today, we are talking about food. Not just any food, food that was banned, outlawed, punishable by imprisonment, exile, and in some cases a death. Ingredients so powerful, so politically charged, so deeply threatening to the established order that kings and emperors passed laws specifically to control who could eat them. Because throughout history, what you ate was not just a matter of taste, it was a matter of power. And the people at the top of the food chain, literally and figuratively, were not about to let just anyone sit at their table. This is the story of 5 ingredients that were once forbidden, and the extraordinary reasons why. Number 1. Sugar. Today sugar is everywhere, cheap, abundant, stuffed into almost everything we eat. For most of human history, sugar was rarer than gold. Sugar cane originated in New Guinea thousands of years ago. It spread slowly westward, to India, to Persia, to the Arab world, and everywhere it went it was treated as a luxury of the highest order. When sugar finally reached medieval Europe, it arrived not as a food, but as a medicine. Sold by apothecaries alongside herbs and spices. Prescribed by physicians for ailments ranging from digestive problems to melancholy, the price reflected its status. In 13th century England, sugar cost the equivalent of several $100s per kilogram in today's money. Only the wealthiest noble households could afford it at all, and wealthy households used that fact deliberately. Sugar sculptures, elaborate architectural constructions made entirely from refined sugar, were displayed at royal banquets not to be eaten, but to be admired. They were status symbols, visual declarations of wealth so extreme, could afford to make art from the most expensive ingredient on earth. Henry III of England once received sugar as a diplomatic gift. A few kilograms, he treated it like the treasure it was. Sumptuary laws regulating who could consume what based on social class, existed across medieval Europe specifically to prevent lower classes from accessing luxury foods including sugar. You could not simply buy sugar if you had the money, you had to have the right to buy it. Sugar was not democratized until the brutal expansion of plantation slavery in the Caribbean in the 17th and 18th centuries, when the human cost of producing it was transferred onto enslaved people and the price collapsed almost overnight. The sweetness we take for granted was built on suffering most people never think about. Number 2 is spices. Here at AmdiVibes, if sugar was liquid gold, spices were the entire treasury. Black pepper, cinnamon, nutmeg, cloves, cardamom. Today you can buy all of these for a few dollars at any supermarket. In medieval Europe, they were worth more than silver by weight. Wars were fought over them. Empires were built on them. The entire age of exploration, Columbus, Vasco da Gama, Magellan, was driven primarily by the desperate European need to find a direct route to the spice islands of Southeast Asia and cut out the Arab and Venetian middlemen who controlled the trade. The reason spices were so valuable was partly practical. They preserved food, masked the taste of spoiling meat, and provided genuine medical benefits, but it was also deeply symbolic. Spices came from impossibly distant, exotic places. Owning them meant you had connections to the farthest corners of the earth. Serving them at your table meant you were a person of global reach and unlimited means. Nutmeg at one point was so valuable that the Dutcher who controlled its only source, the Bondi Islands, traded the island of Manhattan to the English in exchange for a nutmeg island they wanted back. Manhattan for nutmeg. Sumptuary laws across Europe restricted spice use to the nobility. In some jurisdictions, a merchant caught serving certain spices to guests below a certain social rank could face serious legal consequences. The spice trade did not just change what people ate, it changed the entire map of the world. Number 3. Coffee. When coffee first appeared in Europe in the 17th century, it was immediately controversial. Not because of its taste, because of what it did. Coffee made people alert, energized, talkative. It brought them out of their homes and into coffeehouses, public spaces where men of different social classes sat together, debated, argued, shared news and radical ideas. The coffeehouse was the original social network. And the people in power found it absolutely terrifying. In 1675, King Charles II of England issued a proclamation banning coffeehouses entirely. His stated reason was that they spread seditious rumors about the government. His real reason was that coffeehouses were places where ordinary people talked about politics, and the conversations happening in them were not flattering to the crown. The ban lasted 11 days before public outrage forced him to reverse it. In Constantinople, Ottoman authorities banned coffee multiple times throughout the 16th and 17th centuries. Grand Vizier Köprülü ordered coffeehouses closed and made drinking coffee punishable by beating for a first offense and death for repeat offenders. The bans never worked because you cannot ban a substance that makes people feel good and think clearly and want to talk to each other. Coffee always came back, but the fact that governments tried so hard to ban it tells you everything about what coffee really was. It was not just a drink, it was a meeting place for dangerous ideas. Number for nutmeg. We mentioned nutmeg briefly, but its story deserves its own moment. Because nutmeg was not just valuable, it was believed to be magical. In medieval and Renaissance Europe, nutmeg was thought to protect against plague, to enhance intelligence, to induce vivid dreams, to cure everything from digestive problems to the common cold. None of this was scientifically validated. Much of it was completely false, but belief is its own kind of power. The Dutch East India Company, the VOC, established a monopoly on nutmeg production in the Banda Islands of Indonesia in the early 17th century. A monopoly they protected with extraordinary violence. When the local Bandanese people resisted Dutch control of their nutmeg groves, the Dutch responded with a massacre that killed or enslaved the vast majority of the population of the islands. An estimated 15,000 people died so that Europeans could have exclusive access to a spice. Back in Europe, the Dutch controlled nutmeg prices so tightly that they burned stockpiles to prevent oversupply and keep prices artificially high. They made it illegal to export nutmeg plants or seeds under penalty of death to prevent anyone else from growing it. For nearly a century, the Dutch nutmeg monopoly was one of the most profitable and most brutal commercial arrangements in history. All for a small brown seed that you can now buy for less than the cost of a cup of coffee. Number 5. Salt. And then there is salt, the oldest, most fundamental, most universally controlled food ingredient in human history. Salt is not a luxury, it is a necessity. Before refrigeration, salt was the only reliable way to preserve food. No salt meant no preserved meat, no preserved fish, no surviving winter with enough food to eat. Which made salt the perfect instrument of control. Governments across history understood this with brutal clarity. The Roman Empire paid soldiers partly in salt, the origin of the word salary. The French monarchy imposed the gabelle, a salt tax so oppressive that it was one of the genuine grievances driving the French Revolution. The British Empire's salt monopoly in India was so exploitative that Gandhi chose it as the focus of his most famous act of civil disobedience, the Salt March of 1930. In China, the salt monopoly was one of the most important sources of government revenue for over 2,000 years. Smuggling salt was punishable by death, and yet salt smuggling was so widespread and so profitable that entire criminal dynasties were built on it. The most famous salt smuggler in Chinese history, Huang Chao, accumulated so much wealth and so many followers through illegal salt trading that he eventually launched a rebellion that nearly destroyed the Tang dynasty. He came within a whisper of becoming emperor of China because of salt. The lesson. So what does the story of forbidden food teach us? It teaches us that whoever controls what people need, controls the people. Sugar, spices, coffee, nutmeg, salt. Different ingredients, different eras, different cultures. But the same fundamental story every time. Something that people want or need becomes the instrument through which power is exercised over them. Tax it, restrict it, monopolize it, ban it entirely. The ingredient does not matter. The mechanism is always the same. The second lesson is about resistance. Every single food on this list was banned at some point. And every single ban eventually failed because you cannot permanently suppress something that people genuinely want. You can make it expensive, you can make it dangerous. You can execute salt smugglers and close coffeehouses and burn nutmeg stockpiles. But the desire does not go away, and eventually, always, the desire wins. The final lesson is the most personal. The next time you add salt to your food, the next time you stir sugar into your coffee, the next time you grind pepper over your dinner, remember that you are doing something that once required wealth, connections, and in some cases, genuine courage. The ordinary pleasures of your daily life are the inheritance of centuries of human struggle, trade, exploration, exploitation, and revolution. Every meal is a history lesson. Here at AmdiVibes, we tell these stories because the world you live in was not always this way. And understanding how it got here changes how you see it. If this story surprised you, share it with someone today. Subscribe to AmdiVibes for more stories that change how you see the world. We'll see you in the next one.